of our daily choices, where we are trying to move away from fear and move towards pleasure, is actually a direct reflection of our identity. It's our self-concept. So anything that we say after the words I am, and the words I am, that is the most powerful driving force in the human psyche. And we cannot use these words lightly, right? So even when we say things like I'm so silly or I'm forgetful, anything that we say is so powerful. Language is so powerful.
Welcome back, friends. I'm your host, Sherry Shaban, and with each episode, I am honored to be your coach and guide in the journey to make peace with food, fall in love with fitness, and ultimately yourself. My intention in each episode is to help you release the old story of who you are and step into the one you're always meant to be. We'll challenge conventional diet and fitness culture and understand the importance of tuning out all the shoulds they tell us to do and tuning into our own inner wisdom instead. What you focus on, you create more of. Through these conversations, you'll shift your focus from what you're supposed to be doing to who you want to be, so that health and fitness and ease around food is not just what you do, but who you are. And if you find that this conversation resonates with you today, then I want to invite you to join our free Make Peace with Food Facebook community at myfoodfreedomlifestyle.com, where you can connect with me and my team directly and access all the free trainings and resources we have for you so you can regulate your nervous system and make peace with food. And then also remember to share this episode with someone who you think needs to hear this today. The links are in the show notes. If you're listening to today's episode and you feel like food and dieting and weight and body image has completely taken over your life, has complete power over you, I hope this conversation brings you the comfort and inspiration that you're searching for. And remember, you're not alone. Healing is possible. If you've ever felt like you know exactly what to do, but you just can't bring yourself to do the things that you know to do, then I want to invite you to join me during my 3-day Break the Cycle Masterclass, where I'm going to be talking about how to overcome binge eating and emotional eating and how to regulate your nervous system so that you're no longer engaging in these unwanted eating behaviors. And this isn't a 3-day masterclass on weight loss, by the way. This is a 3-day masterclass on understanding how to break free from the cycle that's resulting in the side effect of weight gain. And that's the big difference, because you know this by now, that repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, is called insanity. You know that dieting doesn't work. You know that it's not about hard discipline and getting yourself to be on another plan or hiring a nutritionist to tell you what to eat. You know all the things. Heck, I bet you can even write a book on all the things. But what you do want to uncover is, why is it that you continue to sabotage? Why does it feel like you're always on the wagon or off the wagon? And that's exactly why I'd love for you to join me during this 3-day Break the Cycle Masterclass that I'm giving completely free. Now you can register at sherryshaban.com/break the cycle. Again, sherryshaban.com/break the cycle. Again, it's completely free to join. And the goal during these 3 days together is to uncover why it is that you continue to engage in unwanted eating behaviors, even though you know exactly what to do. sherryshaban.com/break the cycle. All right, now let's get into it.
The moment we allow ourselves to be curious and to explore who we truly are without the shoulds, the musts, the have-tos, that's where we can really start to tap into what that is. Because identity is actually created mostly in our upbringing. It's in our childhood. It is the things that were said to us. It's when mom told us that we weren't the athletic one. We were maybe more of the studious one. And it's when our coach told us that we weren't great runners. And it's when we had our heart broken. And it's when we met adversity and we showed ourselves that we weren't able to overcome it. And so that's how we create identity. And a lot of it also comes from the shoulds and the musts, which is, I should be this way. I should weigh this much. I should be doing this. Success should be like that. And so as we create this programming growing up, what we actually also do is create that sense of identity. And so why this is so important is because all of our daily choices where we are trying to move away from fear and move towards pleasure is actually a direct reflection of our identity. It's our self-concept. So anything that we say after the words I am, and the words I am, that is the most powerful driving force in the human psyche. And we cannot use these words lightly, right? So even when we say things like I'm so silly or I'm forgetful, anything that we say is so powerful. Language is so powerful. And so if we wake up in the morning and give ourselves that daily dose of negative self-talk as we look at ourselves in the mirror, and then we hit the gym, right? What's actually happening is we program our mind through our thoughts. And what ends up happening is whatever thought that we have creates chemistry in the body. We don't realize that. That's how powerful thoughts are. So if I'm wanting to release weight, if I'm wanting to get strong, if I'm wanting to create success in my business, and yet my belief systems around who I am are the exact opposite of that, my body's just going to follow what my mind thinks. It's not what I'm actually doing. It's what it actually believes about me. And so we don't realize that we have a thought. The thought creates a neurotransmitter in the brain. And then the neurotransmitter creates a neuropeptide, which is a protein. It's the messenger that goes to a receptor site in the body. And we have different receptor sites located in our energy centers, and their function is to create hormones, right? And when we create hormones in the body, that gives us an emotion. It gives us a feeling, which gives us more feedback to the brain to, again, re-trigger that thought. And now we're trapped in the loop. And so that's so difficult sometimes to understand and grasp because it's really not tangible. But what happens when we have a sexual thought? Then imagine what happens when we have a thought that is very self-deprecating, when we have a thought that is very negative, when we have a thought that we don't feel like we're enough, or that every time we're at the gym, all we're doing is thinking about how this is not going to work. This never works. This has never worked for me. This is so hard. This is going to be impossible. And these are the thoughts that we're continuing to transmit. And as a result of that, the chemistry in the body is going to create the effect, no matter how hard we try. And so identity, if we're able to recreate identity, and that's the beautiful thing about it, is we can rewrite our story. And a lot of us believe that we can only write our present and maybe our future, but I'm actually going to challenge that thought. And I'm going to say we can actually rewrite our past, because our past is a perspective of how we viewed the story, right? Dr. Mary, you and I could walk into a park and it's the same park. And you're looking at the beautiful trees and you're seeing the sun rays going through the trees and you're seeing how beautiful the birds are sitting in the trees and you're hearing all the gorgeous noises. Meanwhile, I'm next to you and I'm like, oh my God, there's garbage here. Oh my God, there's a cigarette butt here. Oh my God, it stinks. We are in the same place and yet we have completely different experiences depending on perspective. And that's also how we create our identity. It is all around perspective. And oftentimes it is around feeling not enough. It comes from a scarcity mindset. So the moment we feel empowered and we understand the strength and the potency of I am, we rewrite our own story. We now become unstoppable, because whatever you want to achieve, you have to first believe. And if you believe that, that's because it's a reflection of your self-identity or self-concept. We're told that in order for us to be healthy, right, we have to release weight. If you want to be healthy, you have to release weight, right? And so what's super important is you understand that actually, in order for us to really create a transformation, this health that we're talking about is understanding that it's from the inner world. Our physical body is a direct reflection of our internal environment. And so the moment that we understand this, the moment that we appreciate this, that it's not weight loss that's going to create health, that it's actually understanding that it's the inner work that is going to create the health, and that weight loss is a side effect of everything that I'm thinking. My physical body is displaying exactly what's going on in my internal environment. That is the first thing. Because otherwise, we're always going to be fixated on the side effect of things. We're always going to be fixated on controlling the food, controlling my weight, controlling my exercise, instead of controlling my inner chemistry, my thoughts. And so that's the first step. And then the second step is really awareness. And I know it sounds so simple because we think about like, okay, what do you mean awareness? Like, that's too simple. There has to be this magical scientific formula, and there's got to be some sort of app that creates this for us. But really, it's as simple as awareness, because we can't heal what we don't know what we're trying to heal. So if I have no idea that I'm needing to work on this, if I have no idea that this is my block, if I have no idea that that time when I was in high school and I was told that I was ugly by my English teacher has been actually subconsciously programmed in my mind up until today, and that is how I'm actually perceiving the view of the world, then I have to go back and understand that. And it reminds me of this story. I was working with this one lady. I actually have had her on my podcast, and she is absolutely incredible. She came to see me initially at my gym when I owned a gym at the time, and right away she signed up for 40 sessions, private training sessions, and she wanted, of course, to work on her physical fitness. And so this was a very interesting dynamic because it felt like I was pulling teeth. Every time I would offer new exercise, I was met by so much resistance. I would offer an exercise and the response would be, I can't do that. You think I can jump that high? You think I can lift that much? Why are you making me do this? And so as we were wrapping up the 40 sessions, I was really getting ready to say, I don't think we're a right match for each other. I feel like I can't really help you. There's just no flow in the work that we're doing together. And as soon as I was about to say this to her, she shares with me that when she was in high school, she was voted as the most unathletic. And in fact, her photo is there in the yearbook with the title most unathletic for that year. And so that's been her programming. And so even though that was something that happened over 25 years ago, she kept explaining, like, don't you understand? I'm unathletic. Like even in high school, I was voted as unathletic. And that's how powerful programming is. And so the moment we identified this and we just brought it into perspective, because that is that 14 or 15-year-old version of ourselves viewing the world versus, let's say, the adult version of ourselves that can go back in time to really understand exactly what happened and what the context was. So a bunch of 13-year-olds told me that I was unathletic, and now I'm 40 and I'm still following what those 13-year-olds told me. And so because we were able to go back and create that awareness, she was then able to rewrite the story. And now she is the heroine of her own story, right? And that's the thing is about writing our stories. We oftentimes feel like there should be no obstacles. There should be no difficulties. There should be no challenges. But that would be the most boring movie ever, because I would never pay for a movie. And I don't know about you, Dr. Mary, but would you ever pay for a movie where at the beginning, the hero is beautiful and gorgeous and making a lot of money and just super successful. And then in the middle of the movie, they're amazing and they've still no problems. They've got all this money. They've got gorgeous and they've got a beautiful partner. And then in the end of the movie, same thing, right? Nothing has really changed in their life. We don't go watch that movie. We watch the movie when there's a struggle, right? And when there is almost a villain in the movie that is allowing the heroine to shine, right? The hero of the story to shine. And so the greater the villain, the greater the hero. And that was her villain. It was really just identifying that moment in her life where she was told that she wasn't able, where she was told that this is who you are, statement. And so by rewriting her story, she now jumps on 24 inches boxes. She, by the way, was born with a defect, a birth defect. So her right scapula isn't completely developed. So this was during the birthing process. She's able to lift so much weight. She now is a runner. And you see that shift, even though we were working together, when there was a lot of resistance because she was still aligning with old identity, there wasn't much progress. But the moment she made that shift and started to call herself an athlete, start to refer to herself as an athlete, then all of a sudden, she's now exploring endless possibilities, as you just said. And so that's the other reason why I oftentimes use the word athlete as I describe my clients, because an athlete is a mindset. It is not a person who is struggling with their weight or struggling with diet and exercise and restricting and really focused on what their physical body should look like. An athlete is a person who shows up every single day to honor themselves, to compete against themselves, and to compete in performance and not in aesthetics. And so an athlete eats to train. An athlete eats to fuel their training, to fuel their recovery, to fuel restful sleep. And an athlete will turn down certain foods or substances, not because of the calories, but because of what the effect will be on their training and on their body. And so it is a more intuitive process the moment we make that shift. And then I know also a lot of people are listening now and they're like, what do you mean I'm an athlete? I'm not an athlete, right? An athlete is a person who gets paid gazillions of dollars to be on TV and play professionally. And that's not true. An athlete is just a mindset. And it is you focusing on nutrition and focusing on training as a way really to honor yourself and what you're able to do versus what you should be doing and what you should look like. We don't oftentimes realize that our nervous system, so I'm going to talk about the autonomic nervous system. And many of us have heard about the autonomic nervous system. It is that part of the nervous system that controls all of the functions of the body that we don't actually need to command. Unless we're, yoginis and yogis and we really can command heart rate and all that. But theoretically, it's not voluntary. And so we have two divisions of the autonomic nervous system. We have the sympathetic nervous system, and then we have the parasympathetic. So the sympathetic is also known as fight or flight or freeze, as we know. And then the parasympathetic is rest or digest. But what I refer to them as is protection mode for sympathetic, and then safety mode for parasympathetic, because so much happens on different levels, not just on the physical level, when we are in either of these nervous system states. And here's what I mean. So when we are in protection mode and we've started something, anything new, whether that's a new goal, it's a new business, or a new, let's say, health ritual, maybe we ventured into fitness, we've hired a trainer, we've hired a nutritionist, we're doing all the things, but we're actually coming from protection mode, we're going to be met with a lot of resistance from the body. Because when we are negatively self-talking, we don't realize that we're actually triggering protection mode. We're actually getting ready to defend ourselves. We feel like we're being attacked, right? If somebody comes up to me and starts calling me names and starts making fun of my body and the way that I look, I'm ready to fight. What are you talking about, right? Maybe we'll run away, maybe we'll freeze, but that's protection mode. And so when we engage in a lot of negative self-talk, which is the opposite of self-love, we're constantly triggering protection mode. And now here's what happens in the body when we are in sympathetic nervous state or protection mode. First of all, we slow down the metabolism. Digestion is not important. If I'm wanting to change the composition of my body, if I'm wanting to release fat, let's say, I'm going to need the help of my digestive system. And so if I've suppressed that because I'm constantly stressed, I'm constantly worried, I'm constantly worried that I might go over my macros, I'm worried about how much I weigh today, I'm constantly negative self-talking, I'm hoping that the salad that I ate is going to help me release weight, I'm wondering what else I should eat to make this maybe go faster, I'm worried that swimsuit season is coming up and I'm not going to be ready. So that's a lot of those thoughts give the emotions of anxiety and stress and fear and doubt and shame and frustration, and all of them, which are a reflection of protection mode. And so when we're starting any new project, when we're starting any new goal around health and fitness, and we're already starting with a negative self-talk, the doubt, not really believing that this is going to work, well, we've already decided that the body's feeling that it's under threat. It's actually seeking survival. So it's going to slow down the metabolism to conserve energy because it has no idea that there is no direct threat coming from the environment. It's just picking up the senses, the cues, which is coming from our mind. And then the other thing that's going to happen is, since my body now in protection mode is seeking survival, in addition to slowing down my metabolism, it's actually going to get me to want to crave more food. And not just more food, I'm going to be craving the foods that are higher in calories. That's why we emotionally eat. Because when we can't regulate that emotion, which is a reflection of protection mode, our body on a very primitive level views food as safety, as security, as comfort. We know that. We know that without food, we perish. It's just a matter of time. And he or she who has the most stored body fat or stored energy is who will survive the longest. And so when I'm in protection mode, seems like everything I'm doing is just not working. The running feels heavy because my body's like, why are you doing this? We want to conserve energy. Don't waste calories. We need to survive. And so movement feels heavy. And then all of a sudden, I don't get it. I've been eating super clean, quote unquote, just in case you're listening to the audio. And I'm still self-sabotaging with Oreos. Of course, because your body is going to seek out survival, which is going to get you to crave these foods that are higher in calories and higher in energy. And so that's how powerful self-love is. And in order for us to really change the dialogue, we have to first know what the dialogue is. And again, coming back to awareness, how do I speak to myself? What do I say as the first thought as soon as my eyes open in the morning? Is it, oh crap, oh God, or is it, yes, I'm alive, I get to be here, right? If I'm going out for my walk, do I have to go for my walk because I have to release weight? Or is it I get to go for my walk because my legs work and I'm so grateful. I can't believe my able body is allowing me to do this. And so just that in itself, the have to, the should into I get to, I choose to, I commit to. These are very, very different words and they trigger different parts of the autonomic nervous system. And that's how powerful self-love is. Loving yourself, congratulating yourself for every tiny thing. Even if you went for a 5-minute walk, instead of focusing on, yeah, but it wasn't an hour. I only did 2,000 steps, not 10,000 today. Instead, focusing on the win and congratulating yourself. And I always say this as well to my athletes, even something so small as actually making a bowel movement is such a gift. Because in my line of work, I work with people who for 2 or 3 weeks experience a bowel movement. I mean, this is a gift. And the thing is about our gifts is we only realize they're gifts the moment that they're gone. And the more we tap into that, just something as simple as I get to swallow. I have athletes also who've overcome throat cancer who can't swallow. And so these little teeny tiny things that we allow ourselves to do, that we're actually experiencing and appreciating is what ends up really helping us stay more present and shift into safety mode. But it has to start first. And I'll always say this with the rule of addition first before subtraction, because here's the thing about moving from, let's call a negative mindset to a positive mindset, is that it doesn't happen overnight. We go from negative to less negative to less negative to a lot less negative to neutral to slightly more positive to a little bit more positive until we're finally all the way on the other side of that spectrum where we are now completely positive. And it's very challenging to really measure our mindset, isn't it? It's easy to measure the weight that we're lifting at the gym. It's easy to measure our yoga flow. It's easy to measure how much weight we've released. But how do we measure mindset? We measure mindset by the quality of our thoughts. And so in order for us to see the shift in thoughts, let's first determine where we are. What am I really saying to myself? Who do I really believe I am? What really is the identity that I've had around my health and fitness space? Because you may feel different around business. If you're crushing business and you're crushing your career, that might be a very different mindset and identity as compared to, let's say, health and fitness. And so by learning where you are and creating awareness around that, you can now start to monitor your thoughts. You can start now to add more positive habits, more positive affirmations instead of stopping the negative ones. So that's the rule of addition first before subtraction, is that if I want to remove all the weeds from my lawn, instead of trying to pluck one out at a time, which I know is just going to reappear the next day, I'm going to actually put more grass seeds. And over time, I'm going to have that lawn that's completely weed free. The more we should, the more we're restricting, the more we're focusing on what our body should do for us, the more actually, if you notice, that we create unwanted eating behaviors, that we create self-sabotage. And so my offering is to maybe start to view our, let's say, commitments in a 24-hour period at a time. So instead of thinking about what I want to do in 3 months or 6 months from now, why don't I just focus on what I am actually able to access in this 24-hour period, and to honor my body, to honor myself. And we have this innate capacity to really tune into the signals that our body is constantly giving us, not just about healing, but also about nutrition, about what our body needs in terms of nutrition and in terms of movement. And that's also referred to as intuitive movement and intuitive eating. And if we get away from the apps, we get out of the mind and we get back into the body, we can pick up all these cues and just have grace with yourself. Just be patient, be compassionate first and foremost. And if you find you've slipped up, which we all do, just move on. Don't make it such a big thing. Don't allow guilt and shame and frustration to settle in, because that only brings us right back into the loop where we re-trigger protection mode. And so speak to yourself in a way that you speak to a little child. If you're a parent, if you're even a pet owner, and if you start to speak to yourself in the same way that you speak to the people that you love, everything will start to shift immediately.